Legendaryum Türkiye'nin kıymetli izleyicileri, ben Cevdet Acarsoy, uzman psikolog. Hollanda'da yaşıyorum uzunca bir zamandır ve Legendaryum Türkiye'nin Hollanda temsilcisi diyebilirsin dendi bana. Böyle bir hak verildi. Hollanda temsilcisi olarak burada çok ilginç bir mağazaya denk geldim. Sokaklarda böyle çok yer gezen bir arkadaşım işi gereği bulmuş. Bana söyledi, o da Tolkien sever. Dedi ki bir Tolkien Winkel var. Winkel shop demek, yani mağaza demek. Tolkien mağazası var. 1986'da kurulmuş ve Rene Van Rossenberg tarafından kurulmuş bir Tolkien sever ve koleksiyoner. Şimdi bugün bu bölümde size orayı anlatmaya çalışacağım. Rene ile birlikte bir röportaj yapacağız. İçeriği çekmeye çalışacağım. Bittikten sonra da yine bu noktadan, hava aşırı soğuk bu arada, bu noktadan donmazsam, hayatta kalırsam size duygularımı da anlatacağım. Şu an önündeyiz. Haydi bakalım içeriye girelim, biraz inceleyelim. Sanıyorum Tolkien'in el yazması mektupları ve ilk basım kitaplar da içeren büyük bir koleksiyon var ama satın alabileceğiniz şeyler de var ve Rene müthiş bir adam. Zaten randevuyla gelebiliyorsunuz bazen. Hemen üst katta oturuyor. Evi de üstünde zaten. Oradan da gelebiliyorsunuz. Bazen de açık olduğu günler var. Mesela bugün cumartesi sabah 10 ile 6 arası açık demişti bana. Mesela o zaman da gelebilirsiniz. Leiden kentine gelirseniz, Hollanda'da, Amsterdam'a çok yakın bir kent. Gelirseniz burayı ziyaret edebilirsiniz. Haydi bakalım içeriye girelim, başlayalım gezmeye. Legendaryum Türkiye fanları, hoş geldiniz. İçerideyiz. Görüntüleri çektim sizin için, göreceksiniz zaten. Şimdi yanımda muhteşem Rene Van Rossenberg var. Yep. Şimdi biz onunla bir Zafer abinin, Dilek ablanın hazırladığı soruları, sizin de sormayı düşündüğünüz soruları onunla soracağım. 10 tane sorumuz var. İngilizce soracağım. Altyazı şeklinde buradan izleyebilirsiniz. Keyifli seyirler diliyorum. Okay, Rene, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Hanonley in Elvish. Okay. I don't know if it's Quenya or Sindarin, but bear with me. So Hanonley on behalf of all the Legendarium Turkey fans, and for me as the Netherlands person, the spokesperson in Netherlands. Okay. So we would like to thank you for accepting us and this interview.
You're welcome. Pleasure to do it.
Yeah. So we are here in your shop that opened 1986.
Yep.
And then the first question is, when did you start reading Tolkien books, and then later on you started collecting them?
Yeah, that was in fact the same year. I read Tolkien for the first time the year he died, 1973. Mm-hmm. My elder brother had The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings in Dutch, of course, because I was a 12-year-old boy. I couldn't read English, so I read them in Dutch.
Especially in Tolkien's English, right?
Especially Tolkien English. You need your knowledge of English has to be good.
Exactly,
so I read everything I could find as a 12-year-old boy. I already finished the complete library of my father, and my elder brother had 3 thick volumes on his bookshelves. I want to read that because they are so thick. At least it takes me a while. And he said, no, that was the Dutch In de Bal van de Ring, The Lord of the Rings. And then my elder brother said, no, you have to read The Hobbit first. Fortunately, he had that on his shelf as well. So I read that first in 1973, and I thought it was a bit boring. Sorry, I thought it was boring because, I mean,
just wars running
around.
You
can go on an adventure to a dragon, and all that Bilbo character is worried about is, did he have a clean handkerchief? And then they come to a scary forest, and then Gandalf tells them, don't go off, don't drink the water, don't leave the path. And I'm thinking to myself, they're going to leave the path and they're going to drink the water, which they did. It annoyed me tremendously.
Predictable.
Predictable. But I thought, I want to read The Lord of the Rings because... So I finished The Hobbit, I started The Lord of the Rings. That started with that same Bilbo again and that annoying Gandalf. I thought, I'm not going to finish 1400 pages with these two. But fortunately, there's a real change in the book. The Black Rider, the Nazgul appears in the Shire. Then it changes, and then it becomes scary. And then I thought as a 12-year-old boy, this is good. So I read them all, and I know it's 1973 because I remember that the Dutch Evening News reported that J.R. Tolkien had died.
Oh my God.
And I could never remember that if I just hadn't finished these books. And I cut out from my local newspaper a small announcement that J.R. Tolkien had died, and I glued it in my book. Yeah, I was a 12-year-old boy. You glue stuff in books.
Yes,
nowadays, as a collector, don't
glue.
Don't glue stuff in books. But I still have that book with that announcement in it. So I thought, that was fun. And then I started collecting because I wanted these books myself, because they were my brothers. I wanted them myself. Then you find a cheap English edition of Lord of the Rings. I couldn't read English, but I thought, well, it's only cheap, so I put it on the shelf. And one shelf becomes a bookcase, and a bookcase becomes a lot, and then you have a shop.
All the book. All the bookcases once was like one bookcase.
Because when I started collecting, this is before the internet. Yeah. So what I did, I wrote a letter to the English and the American publisher, and sending one book was too expensive. So I told them, send me 10 copies. And I sold the 9 others.
Exactly.
And in 1981 here in Leiden, the Dutch Tolkien Society was founded, and which I joined after a few months. So I took that 9 other books with me to the meetings, and they sold.
Would be super interested, of course. Dutch Tolkien Society.
Before the internet, so you were dependent on what your local bookstore had on the shelves. Usually, there wasn't that much. So I sold that quite easily, and I thought, I can turn this into a business. And I did.
Wow. Yeah, that happened so naturally, like out of need, because they won't send it one copy. Yeah. Wow, yeah, that's so nice. So, but the second question is really interesting. Actually, we inspired by the Turkish translator of the Lord of the Rings, Çiğdem Erkal İpek. I think you have to know Turkish and English at the same time to say this.
Okay.
But she did a marvelous job.
Okay, cool.
Maybe from my previous visits, because I'm visiting here a couple of times. Like when I publish my scientific articles, I buy something from here as a present for myself. That's a good motivator for a Tolkien fan and a scientist. Anyway, so. From our previous visit, I think I remember mentioning this, but the Çiğdem Erkal İpek, she translated the words, and then I think did more than translation, because, for example, for the Rohan people, she selected those words that have been used in the Middle Asia, Turkic tribes, nomads, on the horseback, and then she used some words even. For example, for the Mirkwood, she used Kuyut Orman. Orman means forest. That's a normal common name. But Kuyut, they don't have. So it's like derivative of the word Kuytu, which is a Merk, So she did those kinds of things. And then, for example, we had this Ottoman Turkish before we call it, or Old Turkish, like loaded with Arabic and Farsi words, like also more elegant and stuff. So she used those words, those way of talking to elves and ants, the older beings, and then the more common contemporary Turkish. So she did a really good job. But it's she had in one of their talks, she said she had a long play from Tolkien's own voice, and then she had a really difficult time, feeling really difficult to sell it, because she made a connection with that, even though she needed to sell. So inspired for that. Isn't it feel difficult after a while for some items to sell them and see them let them go?
No, but you should remember, of course, that usually I have that item in my collection anyway. So it's only.
So it's not the only copy.
No, precisely. I sell the second one, and I have stuff in my collection. Like Tolkien came to Rotterdam here in the Netherlands in 1958, and he gave a speech. And I got the recording of that speech.
Wow.
And I'm the only one in the world who has that recording of the speech. Am I going to sell it?
Not on the internet, it's just
No,
you.
I have it. No one else. I was planning of releasing it, but the Tolkien estate said no.
Of course. Yeah.
But that's mine, and I'm the only one who has that. So, and there's more special items that I keep for myself. But as a rule, is it for the shop? It's for sale. And since my collection is so wide, usually I already have it.
Okay. Oops.
The shop is falling apart.
All right.
Tolkien intervening.
Don't be so sure. His spirit is here. So, also, for example, Çiğdem Erkal said she feels day by day she feels to become like a dragon in that sense, holding on it. So I think you have some items that you feel like mine, dragon.
Precisely. I'm sitting on my treasure, and if someone gets too close, I hiss on them. That's true. When people knew,
the smog.
then people knew about that recording, and people, can I get a copy? And can you play it for me? And no.
Perfect. Okay. And then this, I think, difficult question. The next question is, what's the best character or story in the whole of Tolkien's legendarium?
Oh, that's so difficult to answer. When I first read The Lord of the Rings in Dutch, one of the characters that appealed to me was Gollum. Gollum stroke Smeagol. Because I thought it was interesting how he has this conversation with himself. And he has a bit of humor.
Yeah.
And he's the only one in The Lord of the Rings, which is quite serious, well, it's all about battles. But he's the only one who brings in a bit of humor in it. And I really like that. Peter Jackson went a bit further and he gave Gimli some funny jokes, which are not in the books. So I always had this feeling about Gollum, Smeagol, I like that very much. But it's like if you have a big family and you have 10 favorites, 10 sons, which is your favorite? I don't know.
Yeah. You can't differentiate them.
No, there are some characters I still don't like that Gandalf, to be honest. I think he's a bit of a know-it-all.
Okay. Which Gandalf, grey or the white?
The white is better because he's back on a mission. But Gandalf the Grey is, he's mean to hobbits.
In the books, right?
In the books, I always talk about the books. For me, I do like the
films.
We
are hardcore Tolkien fans. Like, we are only talking about books. No, don't confuse. Okay.
If someone mentioned Amazon, I kick them out.
Okay.
Now, I always been a fan of. I like the Lord of the Rings movies. I didn't like the Hobbit movies, but for me, it's always the books. So when people say, "Well, the character is so and so," I said, "No, that's in the movie, but in the books they're different." And for me, there's only one. But the only thing that's important that's the books.
Yeah.
When I first saw, Ian McKellen is an excellent Gandalf.
Yeah.
But he's not a Gandalf that's in my head since I was a 12-year-old boy. And there's a difference.
Exactly.
And when the first movies, when the rumor started, I got people here in my shop and always told them, read the books first before you go to see the movie. Because you can't do it the other way around. If you do it the other way around, you see the movie first and then read the books. You will always see the pictures of the Peter Jackson films in your head.
For me, for example, I got into the whole legendarium while watching the first movie, like Fellowship of the Ring. So even if afterwards I read the books, but in my mind they were them, It was impossible to do that. Only for some characters that never in the book, like Silmarillion or other. That's different. So I will maybe, for example, for some characters, like in the new series, I'm watching it, although I don't like it. So, so then, this person, no, I didn't, imagine that. Then. But so that's your favorite character, Gollum.
Yeah.
And what's the favorite storyline?
Well, of all the stories, I think I like Leaf by Nigel the best because it's such a nice, symbolic story of that poor painter who wanted to paint a whole tree and could manage one leaf. And when he dies, my interpretation, when he dies, he goes to heaven and sees that complete tree, which he imagines standing there. I thought that was such a nice, filled with Christian symbolism, but you can ignore that and see it as a story of we all try to achieve something in life, and we can only do that much. Well, we wanted to do that. And when you die, you see how it all could have been. And I thought that's so relaxing and beautiful, and that I thought that's a story that I, one of the few stories I keep on reading and rereading. I really like that Leaf by Nigel. Nice. So that's if I have to say a favorite story, it has to be Leaf by Nigel.
Yeah. Okay. So we kind of talked about this, but what's your stand on the adaptations? Because you said the Hobbit movies, which I also agree, you don't like the original trilogy. What's your stand on the adaptations, like film or series? What's the line for you, for example?
Well, the problem for me is that I've never been a movie lover anyway. For me, it's the books. When the first Fellowship of the Ring movie came out, I had to do an interview for a film magazine. And the guy found out that the movie I've seen before Fellowship of the Ring was Twister. That was 6 years before. And he looked at me full of wonder. You go to the cinema once every 6 years? And I said, at most. So for me, it's the books. If you want to do a book adaptation into a movie is something else than a book. So that you have to make changes, I understand. And I think Peter Jackson did a good job. He made some changes because a film is something else than a book.
Exactly, yeah.
But on the whole, he kept very close to the intention of the books. Sure, something got lost. I mean, you act in the movies, you focus on the action, while the Lord of the Rings is so much more with depth.
Yeah. And there are different mediums, right? Mediums of telling stories. Yeah.
But if you go to the Amazon series, to go to the opposite, they decided to ignore most of Tolkien's writing. Yeah. That's fine. But then you have to give me a story that's better.
Exactly.
And they don't. No. So they may if you want to make changes, fine, but you have to very good reason. And I kept people here in the shop. I fully admit that what we're going to see with the Amazon stories, or have seen with the Amazon stories, is probably not... It's fan fiction. It's based on names and situations in Tolkien. Then they moved on and invented stuff themselves. If it's good storytelling, if I find it an acceptable, good story with good characters, I don't mind.
Yeah, but as a fan fiction.
Precisely, but on that level it fails as well.
Exactly.
It isn't good. On all levels it isn't good. I got family of mine who haven't read Tolkien, so they watch it. They watch Game of Thrones and like fantasy, and so they watch it as a story. They watch it. They see the story as it is, not as it should be. And they tell me, it's boring. What's going on?
Oh my God, you're missing so much. You have to tell them, you're missing so much.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair to the writers, they only could use the appendices of the Lord of the Rings. So we as fans know much more about, because of the Lord of the Silmarillion, of the Unfinished Tales, and History of Middle-earth, but they can't use that. So that's a bit unfair to them. But still, the story they present to us isn't good. I mean, I gave an example... Totally different, The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan.
Yeah.
That's also on Amazon. I like that series. Also, but to be honest, I haven't read only a few of the books of the Robert Jordan, so most of the story is unknown to me. So I judge what I see on the screen. And with the Wheel of Time, I thought it was entertaining. It was a good story. You get involved with the characters. You are concerned on what happens to them. I had none of that with Rings of Power. I didn't care.
Yeah. That's the issue, I think. I also have similar feelings, and it's so interesting that we have a saying in Turkish, "Aklın yolu bir," that means like a common sense, let's say great minds think alike. I think that's the closest translation. So not me, but the Zafer Güleç in the Legendarium Turkey, and he's the expert there, like those telling the stories, and then his view was like that too. Like, okay, if you're not telling this story, and you don't want to tell the story, you write your own story, and then your own story sucks, and then there's so much contradiction so they true. Stopped even. So they, after every episode, they have this, like they watch it live, reaction, and then afterwards they have 1 hour of review of this episode. And those they stopped also from the beginning. They never done, is this according to Tolkien? No, they never did. They just take as a series on its own and criticize or tell what they like. So just like you do. So that's really interesting. And fifth question is. What is you mentioned the Tolkien estate before? So what's your idea? What do you think about the decisions that the estate took after Christopher Tolkien died?
Well, it's difficult for me to criticize. I have a good working relation with them. I have no problem with them.
How are they, by the way? I'm so curious. Like, you have a good, like, it's so fascinating. You have a working relationship with the Tolkien estate.
I know these people. Okay. Well, you have to deal mainly with a person who has been with the estate for many, many years. And she's a lawyer by trade. So she has a legal approach to everything, which is fine. Because they are there to protect
copyright,
and the financial interest. I have no problems at all. So, but if you have a good proposition to them, they are very helpful to work with you. But if it's just pure commercial, they are standoffish and they don't approve. That's a bit of the problem. But I met them. I worked with them before 2001. This is the year the Peter Jackson movie came out. That changed a lot because they hardened their position. Because now they see, well, there are a lot of people who want to exploit the name Tolkien. They want to
can gain a lot of money on top of that.
And so they're standoffish. But before that, they were very easy to go along with. It was no problem. The great example is you have a Dutch composer, Johan de Meij, who did a symphony, The Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, I know.
He had already released that symphony. I was working with him, and then he said, "Oh, do I need permission? You already released the CD."
It's a bit too late for that.
How? So I sent the estate a copy of his CD with a letter and saying, "Well, this is how," and they approved afterwards.
Wow.
That's how easy they were in the 90s. But
And
nowadays,
now,
they would sue you. You have to be in court and then demand a ridiculous amount of money.
Whoa.
But again, fair to them, that's their job.
Yeah.
But
speaking of which, like the name of your shop is like a trademark in
but that's
Netherlands. But that was before, right?
That's before.
Yeah,
I mean, they trademarked it in 2000, but my shop exists since 1986.
Okay.
So they have no way. You can't trademark it backwards.
Exactly. So, yeah. Tolkien shop, tolkienwinkel.nl, right?
Yeah,
Tolkienwinkel.nl. But you're not ordering to Turkey, no? The order for you can order? Okay, tolkienwinkel.com. So
no. Tolkienwinkel.nl and tolkienshop.com.
Exactly. That one.
Tolkien shop is in Dutch, is in English. Tolkien Winkel is in Dutch.
So for our fans, like tolkienshop.com, go there and then you can order maybe some stuff.
I have customers in Turkey. That's no problem.
Nice. Okay. The next question then. Are you happy with the attention and then the interest of the younger generations that they have interest on the Tolkien legendarium?
Yeah, it's good to see that I get whole generations in my shop. Yeah. I get grandfather, dad, and young boy, and they all like Tolkien. Granddad read the books, father saw the movies, and the young boy is on his computer fighting the Balrog. Fine. They all like Tolkien. They reached Middle Earth in different routes. Yeah. Doesn't matter as long as they reach it and they come here and they see. Granddad is usually standing looking at all the merchants going like.
Okay.
But then
I'm interested in the books. You would like
books. Yeah. I got a nice folio edition with illustrations for €250. That's something for you.
Yeah.
So it appeals to different generation. It's good. So that young guy probably borrows the copy from his grandfather and reads the books anyway, because he's been playing the game and has seen the movie and now read the book. And that's good.
I saw it works like that. Like a couple of moments ago, before we started recording this, there was like this family in the shop, and then there's so little like boy, like 4 or 5. He was like orcs, urukai, blah blah. And then the father was like, no, that's an urukai, that's an orc. You know, like it was seeing like a Tolkien fan raising before our eyes. You know,
have
like
to teach them properly.
Yeah. He was like, really no, like it's not. And then he was like, it was clear that he brought his son here to.
Yeah. And that little boy goes to bed every night with Gollum because he got the Gollum plush for
it. So nice, so cute. Okay, so you're generally happy, and then you have the privilege to see all the generations.
Tolkien will last through the times. He will be like Charles Dickens. People still read Dickens. People will in the next century will still read Tolkien. He's a classic.
Like that.
He's a classic, and people will read him because it goes on from generation to generation. And each generation get the medium they want. Is it the book? It's the film? Is it the computer game? Board game? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, so interesting. And then. Here's an interesting question. Since you opened this shop, do you have any interesting stories or came across a person, like a story, interesting story, maybe a famous person you met, not here, maybe outside, but also happens here, interesting?
Well, we have these strict privacy laws in the Netherlands, so I couldn't say if I met someone in person. It has been told before, so that I got a telephone call in 1997 from someone in New Zealand. And they phoned me from New Zealand. I thought, why do you phone me from New Zealand? Email is much easier. And they wanted all kinds of illustrated material. Didn't matter what language it is, books, posters, calendars, as long as it's illustrated. And I thought, that's so weird. But it was a large order, thousands of euros. And then the lady I had on the phone was the wife of Peter Jackson.
Whoa!
Because what they were doing, they were already thinking about how are we going to do these movies? How are you going to envisage Middle Earth?
Exactly.
Who are you going to ask as an art director?
Yeah.
So they wanted to see how Middle Earth has been depicted in pictures for years. So on basis of my material, they asked Alan Lee and John Howe to be the art designers.
Wow.
And then the payment came, and I had to send the invoice via fax to something called Wingnut Films. That didn't mean nothing to me. What's
Back
Wingnut?
then, yeah.
But I was happy. I got big sales. A year, 2 years later, so I saw an interview with Peter Jackson, and it said Peter Jackson from Wingnut Films. I said, I know him.
I think it's also in the opening of the movies.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Wingnut film somewhere, like New Line Cinema, Wingnut,
precisely.
wow.
And then because I had their fax number, I immediately sent them a fax. I said, well, if you need an expert to
work,
I gladly come. I thought to New Zealand for a year, but the rest it was 5 years. But teaching Liv Tyler how to speak Elvish. Yeah, I'm doing that.
Zafer Güleç would love that. Zafer would love that.
But I already had someone else, so they sent me and said, no, sorry, you're too late. We already have someone to do that. But I thought that would be fun. They just put someone in the shop here to run the shop.
Exactly,
go to New Zealand, and I thought it would be fun, but they had someone else. So
they should have done this for the Hobbit movies. Maybe it would turn out better if they had you.
So that's what's. But you do get stories and things. There is a famous book on the Elvish language that's called Jim Allen, Introduction to Elvish. And there was an American who bought a copy of that and he sent it back. That happens sometimes, but he put a note in it saying, I don't want this book. It has nothing to do with Elvis Presley.
Oh my God.
Introduction to Elvish.
So good.
So one of the few times I gave the money back, I thought, well, this is so stupid. Here's your money. Go buy an album from Elvis Presley.
Exactly. Wow. Read before buying, right? Like
preferably.
Yeah. That's so funny. Wow. Okay, interesting question. If you look for the Tolkien readers, or this readership, in your mind, do you have classes or, I don't know, groups of people, categories of people, like these are, like, I don't know, diehard fans and this is, do you have those? Or let's make it bigger and then like all Tolkien lovers, do you have any categories in your mind? If someone comes in the shop and asks for something, like, okay, this is only a person for this and this.
No, that depends a bit. Generally speaking, you have two categories. You have the book lovers and you have the movie lovers.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
There is an overlap, but not so many. There are quite a lot of people who standing in my shop and they don't say, oh, I'm in the Tolkien shop. They say, well, I'm in the Lord of the Rings shop. And I think to myself, why do you call it the Lord of the Rings shop? Because they don't know who Tolkien is.
Wow.
And then they said, why all these books? Well, J.R. Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings. Oh, did he? Well, you haven't been paying attention at the beginning of the movie because his name is very big on the screen.
Based on the...
So in that sense, there are two groups. You have the book lovers and you have the movie lovers. I do have some diehard Tolkien collectors. A good friend of mine, because I supplied him for books for years and years and years. He stopped collecting for the year 2000. He wants nothing after 2000 because these have these movie covers and he refuses to do, and he hasn't seen the movies.
They have this tendency, like changing the book covers with the movie.
Yeah,
that's so bad. Like they did for The Hobbit afterwards, and also now I think after the Amazon series, there's an even edition.
You can buy The Lord of the Rings with Amazon covers, which doesn't make any sense at all.
What's the relation? Oh my God. Okay.
Well, it has elves in them. Okay. No, that doesn't make any sense. So in that sense, but depends on customers, depends what they want. If they are just, well, I just read The Hobbit, in The Lord of the Rings, can you recommend something? But if they are, for instance, interested in the elven languages, that's that kind of people. They want to learn to speak Quenya.
Whoa.
That's another category of people.
Or give me this this chapter from History of Middle Earth, really deep scholar kind of.
Oh yeah, or I read this. Well, I saw this internet discussion about Felagund. Who is Felagund? Can you explain to me who Felagund is? Well, here's the Silmarillion. Knock yourself out. So that's a sort of. But on the whole, it's up to the customer what they want, what they ask. I do get some general public in here, but usually that's during the holiday season when I have to buy a gift for a Tolkien fan, and the people don't know, and then they get this little. I once saw clearly a father. He came into my shop, and all the son had written on a piece of paper was Faramir, €6.95. That's it. So he came to my shop. What's a Faramir and why does it cost €6.95? I said, one of these metal figurines, they are €6.95, and this is Faramir. So
son knew what he wants. That's nice.
Yeah, but go to the Tolkien shop and ask for Faramir, €6.95. What?
Very specific order.
So, wow. What's a Faramir and why is it €6.95? Well, here it is.
Okay, last two questions. One is do you think today, like there's a intellectual respect to Tolkien, or does it seem more of a fantastic, like, you know, literature, fantasy literature?
Yeah, you know,
they are not mutually exclusive, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, I feel that respect for Tolkien and fantasy in genre, in total as a genre, is an up in scientific. Here at the University of Leiden, you now can study Tolkien.
Oh my God!
There's he's not a professor, but a lecturer who is very into Tolkien. He does courses on fantasy. You can do your PhD bit on Tolkien with him.
Okay, this is my second PhD. I know what I'm going to do after my PhD.
That should change. But if you go to Oxford, people in Oxford, because Oxford is a very conservative university, they are a bit annoyed with Tolkien because he didn't do too much scientific work. They felt he was wasting his time writing these children's books.
Wow.
And then getting rich as well, and they annoy that even more. So in Oxford, he's still... But
I heard his article on the Beowulf and other stuff also. Like it was
his pieces on the precisely his pieces on the Beowulf. It's still read and recommended. And what Tolkien was very generous with his knowledge. So he a lot of PhD students under his supervision, they used a lot of his material without he's actually credited. So there is a lot more. But if you look at the number of scientific publications during his lifetime, that's not that much. And for especially present-day academia now, you have to publish, otherwise you'll get out of a job.
Perish, they call,
Publish or perish. If Tolkien would have done that in this time, he would have been out of a job in a few years. He didn't publish enough. He had so much time. Well, he didn't have, but he spent so much time on writing all these books.
And we wouldn't have this, marvelous pieces then without it. So, okay, academy is a big problem now. Like we will talk about in the YouTube channel Gelecek Bilimde, you can watch the Bilim Ahlakı. There's a series, and then we will talk about the problems of academia today. So it's a good teaser to that video. Okay, cross commercial. Okay, last question. What's your thought on the Dutch translations?
That's a very good one. The Dutch translator, he got a literary prize for his translation.
Wow.
And
is it also the same person?
It's the same person. Well, he died a few years ago, but it's still the same translation that's in print nowadays. They never changed it. Well, they made some minor changes, but not very much. But the publisher, because it was the Dutch translation, is the first translation of the Lord of the Rings in the world.
Okay.
And the publisher, the translator was clever enough to send a list of his proposed translations to Tolkien. For instance, he wanted to change hobbits into hobble, because then the Shire would be Hobble land. That sounds a bit like Holland. So he wrote Tolkien a letter saying, I want to change hobbits into hobble, and Tolkien blew his lid. So he said, no, no, a hobbit is a hobbit. But he did clever things like he translated. He knew what Tolkien was doing, so he knew that philology and the history of words are important to Tolkien. So in Dutch, the people from Rohan speak a different Dutch than, say, the hobbits.
Exactly.
They did that on purpose. They did it on purpose, and but on basis on and Tolkien read the Dutch translation because he has a philologist. He had a good.
He knew Dutch.
Well, he knew German. And as a philologist, he could understand how languages work. So he had read it and he said, this is a good translation.
Wow.
And basis on this experience with the Dutch translation, he wrote this guide to translating the names in the Lord of the Rings, which has been published. So to make sure that there were no more hobbles.
But that's so interesting. So like approved translation by Tolkien himself. That's like super rare. Wow.
And there's a famous picture of Tolkien sitting in his studies with the map of the Middle Earth, and behind him a bookcase. And 3 volumes of The Lord of the Rings in Dutch translation are just behind his head. So it was close, because it was the first translation. So it was close to his... that's good. He signed his name in these books, and they went to an American collector after Tolkien's death. So unfortunately, I don't have them. But there's only one copy of the Dutch translation with Tolkien's signature in it, and it went to America. It's now in a university. So
okay, at least it's open to public, safe. Safe. Whoa. Okay, Rene, can you tell us a bit about yourself aside from the Tolkien? So because I know you're a historian by training.
Yeah, I'm a historian. I studied Dutch history here at the university. I worked for a few years at the university. I was born here in Leiden. I've lived here all my life.
You mean Leiden University, right?
Leiden University, yeah. And contrary to what people think, I read more than just Tolkien. I like science fiction. I like fantasy. I got a passion for Sherlock Holmes. I got a very big Sherlock Holmes collection and pastiches. So the story is not written by Arthur Conan Doyle on Sherlock Holmes. Things like that. And of course, I'm a collector, so I got a lot of first editions. Also, I got the first edition Hound of the Baskervilles and things like that. But something totally different. As a small boy, I saw Neil Armstrong walking on the moon as a small. So I have been a passion for space travel, and I collect coins. And I got a sizable collection of coins with space travel motifs.
Wow.
So there's a lot of stuff I collect, and how I fit it all in this house, I don't know. But there's a lot.
You need new shops for different collections.
Yeah. No, I don't. This collection, I don't sell that.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe have you thought of opening a museum for Tolkien?
Well, in principle,
this is a museum,
part
right?
of this is a museum. On these cabinets on the side and the back, there are some high points from my private collection, so people can see the first edition Hobbit in 1937, the first Dutch editions, some books signed by Tolkien, some letters written by Tolkien. They are all in here. There's some high points from my private collection, but my private collection is so big. I got a guest bedroom upstairs, but no one can sleep in there because it's filled with books.
Guest room for books, right?
Yeah, that's it. Just for the books. No one can sleep there.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome
for this interview. And then we wish all the viewers that they come one day here in Netherlands and Leiden, and then they visit
they
Tolkien
can all order online.
Or tolkienshop.com. They can order, and we invite you, have a very warm invite to Istanbul or Antalya, where the Legendarium is based on. So you can go to both cities. Maybe in this winter you can go to Antalya for warm swimming, and then I'm sure they would love to have you, and then show you around, and then have a long chat. You know?
Yeah.
And then I think Zafer abi has some pipe. If you're like Gandalf, you know.
I don't smoke. Sorry,
you don't smoke. Okay, yeah. Then he can smoke and you can talk.
I drink beer. Is that okay?
Yeah, they would have good beers probably. Good. Yeah. Okay, so this is our invite. It's everlasting.
Good. Okay. Never been to Turkey.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, there's a big, huge fan base in Turkey, and they're really passionate.
Cool.
So they would love to have you.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Looking forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Şimdi çıktığım mağazadan şuradayız. Üstte de Rene'nin evi. İzlediniz zaten. Çok güzel bir sohbet oldu. Hava bayağı soğuk Leiden'da. Bugün 2 gün bayağı bir uyarı falan da yaptılar. Kar yağar falan diye. Ama güzel bir hava. Güzel bir öğleden sonraydı. Biraz duygularımı anlatayım. Bir kere ben zaten her gittiğimde eğer hani böyle bir Rene'ye şey yaparsanız, ne derler, bir soru sorursanız falan hemen başlıyor konuşmaya ve çok anlatıyor, çok seviyor anlatmayı. Normalde de yani çekime başlamadan önce de bayağı bir şey anlattı. Ben de şey dedim, dur hani bunları interview'da anlatırsın falan dedim. Çok seviyor anlatmayı ve bilgisini çok paylaşıyor yani hani aynı zamanda böyle Leiden'ın hani Tolkien bilgesi gibi gelip soru soranlar falan da oluyormuş ama hiç şey yapmaz yani hani anlatır, hiç çekinmiyor o konularda. Bu röportaj için de çok şey yaptı. Hani mağazanın açık olduğu bir zamanda gelirsen daha iyi olur. Hem insanları da çekersin falan dedi ama işte buradaki gizlilik şeyinden ötürü izin almadan yüzlerini çekemedim. Ama hani yine de daha aktif bir gündü. Hatta bizim yüzümüzden bir kişi böyle geri döndü çekim yapılırken. Belki sesi çıkmıştır interview'a, kapı açılmıştır. Ben de şey dedim yani hani Tolkien Shop'tan elbet birileri bir şey alır. Hani onun yerine say dedim. Hakkını helal et falan. O şekilde güzeldi. Ben şey hissettim yani böyle çok cana yakın, hemen böyle arkadaş gibi şey yapıyor, sizle konuşuyor. Benim çok hoşuma gitti. Ben de çok sevdiğim için Tolkien'i. Onu da zaten röportajda da duydunuz, davet ettim. Fanlara gelirse eğer Türkiye'ye zaten anons yaparız, konuşuruz. Çünkü hani koleksiyonerin dışında ve bir Tolkien severin dışında bilgisi de aslında var. Gördüğünüz gibi hani belki de öğreneceğimiz şeyler olabilir. İlginç hikayeleri de var işte anlattığı gibi. Benim o çok hoşuma gitti. Çekimden sonra da zaten susmadığı için anlatmaya devam etti. Şeyle ilgili farklı olaylar, hikayeler. İşte mesela hırsızlık oldu mu dedim hiç. Olmuş. Legolas'ın bir tane yayıyla oku varmış. Hani atılabilen, hani prop dediğimiz. Ama hani gerçekten de ok atabileceğiniz bir yaymış. Legolas'ın işte kullandığın replikası mı ne? Ondan sonra onu çalmışlar. Diyor ki polis istasyonuna gittim, polis merkezine. Gençliğden bir tane memur vardı. Adam çok şaşırmış. Yani yazıyorlar ya, şu çalındı, bu çalındı. Bir adet Legolas yayı falan yazmış böyle. Ondan sonra ve geldiklerinde asıl değerli şeyleri almamışlar. Yani yayı falan almışlar. Hani o kadar değerli değildi diyor. Anlayamadılar aslında asıl değerli şeyleri falan diyor. Böyle bir sohbetti. Çok da güzel oldu benim için. Güzel onunla tanışmak, burayı keşfetmiş olmak çok iyi bir his. Fanlardan da Hollanda'ya gelenler, Leiden'a yolu düşenler olursa iletişime geçsinler sosyal medyalarımdan. Belki buluşuruz, buraya gideriz. Güzel olmuş olur. Kendinize iyi bakın. Legendarium Türkiye'yi takip etmeyi unutmayın, izlemeyi unutmayın. Herkese çok selamlar.